Yellow. Oh my, this is a lot. Is this ever a lot? The start of this is going to be a repeat of how I made the Hello There, Hell Here wall for my Catwoman costume, measuring the wall. Now I know I can't get this all in one shot, but I'm only going to be doing this wall up to there. And down to, if you'd focus. There. Don't mind this. Or that wall. Link in bio. So that's, ooh, you can see me. That's creepy. That's where I'm going to be measuring. There we go. You can perfectly see. From here to here. It is a bit of angle, but whatever. $77. My dimensions, wide and long. Let's get started, shall we? Putting the measurements on the floor, specifically as this was still too big to put anywhere else, and taping it off. This time with painter's tape, as I learned from my mistakes the first time and added a more easily removable tape. Chair is holding it down because paint tape does not stay in place very well, but that's kind of the point. Yeah. Adding the poster board into those parameters and cutting it down to the desired size. Now going away from the similarities with a large circle, which is actually called a phalange, fun fact, but you could easily just use a pin, using it in the middle of wherever you want the circle to be, a piece of string, and a pencil to just kind of map it out. Just like old times. Once I had it in the place I wanted, I'm using 2 pieces of wood in which I know are straight to make the branching off straight lines. Took each piece and cut it down to the shape and size. and then glued all the pieces together using hot glue. I picked up a bunch of these foliage backgrounds-ish. I don't actually know what they're considered, which are supposed to be sticky on the back and faux grass on the front, but they weren't that great at sticking. Considering they're from the dollar store, I wasn't too optimistic about them to start. Anyways, I digress. But I did place them down to cover all of the foam board. I glued 3 of them down and then realized I would probably be needing a lot more than I anticipated, so I planned it out a little bit better, utilizing as much of each as possible. Once the majority of my pieces are down, I then flip them and then cut off the excess amount, placing the excess in other areas, again utilizing as much as possible out of each piece.
One thing I really hate about filming, the only thing I actually hate about filming is seeing myself when I'm editing lose something, knowing exactly where it is days, weeks, months later. Where the fuck am I supposed to?
I flipped it back and added those where they would fit and then cut them once again. As for the background spiral, I tried to reduce the amount of garbage I put into the world as much as I can by reusing what I can, yes. But I also asked people around me to give me things they think I might be able to make something out of instead of just throwing them away. This was no exception. My dad and his partner have recently got their bathroom redone, and there was some extra foam that their vanity was wrapped in, and I was lucky enough to 1, be offered it, and 2, be able to actually do something with it. This was it. I placed a few of the sheets down under the keyhole area, and then cut them to size. And then glued those together as well. I flipped that over, and to add some stability, I glued those pieces of wood that I had mentioned before to make the solid lines to the back using contact cement. Placed multiple types of weights on them and then let them dry overnight. When they were all done, I set the entire keyhole grass area portion up and continued with the spiral piece, placing it on a painter sheet so no primer or paint would get anywhere it shouldn't. I already knew this, but I re-found out, I guess, that any type of spray paint or primer, I think it's just anything that has an aerosol can to it, eats away at foam. Luckily mine was thick enough that it didn't compromise it too much. It didn't compromise the integrity, it did compromise the foam though. Then I used a pencil and a marker to shape out how I wanted my spiral and where it would be sitting within that keyhole shape. I began with my white. I just used acrylic paint for both the black and the white. First, because I didn't know how many times I would be going back and forth, I do obviously know that black covers white a lot better than white covers black. Turns out it didn't actually matter. You probably could add a sealant on top of it, but again, I was a little bit hesitant to use any type of aerosol can, and I don't know how something like resin would react to this. Layer 1. I did edit this down quite a bit, of course, but the painting process alone took about 2 days to do. This entire thing took weeks, as I had to wait through the dry time, and mistakes were definitely made. Drips happened. In that dry time though, I painted these fake dishes that I picked up from Value Village a very long time ago from a tea set. I did like the original design, though I thought it was cute, but it did not match, so sadly it had to be changed. I painted a few coats of a thick white to make an opaque base coat. And then I added separate colors onto each. I also picked up a couple mirrors from the dollar store that I actually took the mirror out of one of them and kept it into the other one. Once I had the base coat done though, and or the first or second coat of the solid color, I went in with some shapes. A couple sizes of hearts I made from ripping a piece of painter tape, folding that together in half, matte side together, and cutting half of a heart out. So when it's opened, it's a perfectly symmetrical heart. I placed it obviously a sticky side down onto the cups and plates. I dabbed it into place with a disposable sponge quite a few times, and then painted over it with a brush. For others, I simply took the same tape, cut it into strips, and did a zigzag checkerboard pattern. I painted every other one. Finally, I reused those heart shapes by taking a little bit off the bum looking side, and I made it into a spade shape. After doing 1 or 2 coats of each on each, I cleaned up all of the edges on all of them, no matter what the design was. As for the last bit though, to add even more visual interest, because obviously it's just not enough, and because how else am I supposed to know when it's tea time? If you guys missed that portion in my Mad Hatter costume tutorial, the clocks on the wall were actually set to 6 p.m. I took a few clocks apart. The first one you may recognize from my Chrissy Cunningham Halloween video, as I did have a smashed glass, and I'm finally going to be removing that glass now. Alongside other It's a glass sandwich. Nom nom nom. Stab, 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 stab. The glass was easy enough to remove, the numbers not as much. That involved actually essentially sawing through them. Most people would look at that as maybe a sign to stop. But now it would look weird if I stopped, so I feel like it would look weird, and now I have to because I've got 1, 2 down. Some breaking off, some needing to be glued back on. I even ended up painting over the glue so that it actually still looked like it belonged and not just like I cut a clock apart. And if one wasn't enough, it was time to do another. Get it? Time. Finally, it was time to put all the pieces together. That was not supposed to be a joke about time, but we'll go with it. You could probably go about this literally any other way, but I wanted these to be removable and interchangeable, so I decided where I wanted to place them, cut 2 holes around the area, stuck a zip tie through one and through the other, and then tied it together, making a loop. I actually used my finger to make sure the loop didn't go too far through. And then I used a command hook on the painted dish or mirror or clock and placed that into the loop I had just created. I also wanted to see how the spiral looked in relation to where I would be placing the cups, dishes, and mirrors. Oh, and clocks. God, there's just so much on this. Once I had everything fitted, I flipped it on the ground upside down, and I cut off the rest of the zip tie portion that was coming out. Utilizing that contact cement once again around the keyhole area and picking it up into place to place it onto the keyhole up against the wall, but letting it dry down flat on the ground. My reason for placing it up against the wall was so that I could actually get it into its correct placement so I could see both portions in the area that they were in. I hope that makes sense. Basically just so I could see one against the other. Place the command strips on the back, which seems stupid in retrospect. You'll see why later, but adding more would be a better option. Just trust me on that. I took off the back portion of the command strip and tried placing it on the wall. Keyword tried. Whew. Once, just the way it was, okay. Now my entire place is gonna smell like rubbing alcohol. Once after cleaning down the wall with rubbing alcohol, let that dry down. And once finally with tape, and that actually stuck, literally. Once I got that into place, it was time to add on all the finishings once again: the cups, the plates, the clocks, and mirrors. Oh my, it was tea time. Tip on how to hide command hooks. If you got it like this and you don't want it to show, flip it up, then you can't see it. But that is it for today's video. I do hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I know it was a long one, but this is what went into the Mad Hatter background.